How's it going, guys? It's your guardian Mr.Spirit here, and today I want to talk to you about getting into competitive Team Fortress 2. And these are the basics. This is what you are going to need to know. Now, as most of you may know, I have played a few seasons of competitive in the past, starting back at Season 8 back in 2012. And it is possible to play competitive right now, too. However, competitive is broken up into seasons, so you have to wait so many months before the next season is available, but that doesn't mean you can't get started right now. So the first thing you're going to need to know is your hours. And by this I mean, how many hours have you played? I recommend at least a minimum of 500 before even joining an iron team, because this will allow you to get to know maps, how each class plays the basics, and how you play the game yourself. Are you better at sniper? Are you better as a medic? Are you better as a scout? These hours, these first 500, are your prime time learning experience about the game and how it works. After you reach that 500 mark, I'd say, okay, it's time for you to step up into Iron. If you played about 1,500 or 2,000 hours before that, and now you're just thinking about it, yeah, I could say you could hit into Steel. Silver, maybe, depends on your skill. But definitely you could go for Steel divisions there. So with that understood, the hours will matter. And where you devote your time is the next important step. But before you can choose your class, you need to choose the type of competitive you want to play. We have Highlander being 9v9, one of every class on both sides. This is your more standard competitive mode, but there's also sixes being 2 scouts, 2 soldiers, a demo, and a medic. This is the other standard mode that people like to play. Then there's a little impromptu mode called 4v4, which involves 1 class restriction on everything and no heavy and medic at any one time. So if your team has a heavy, they can't have a medic. If your team has a medic, they can't have a heavy. It's because with a low amount of players, heavy and medic becomes very, very broken. And then there's also Arena Respawn. I'm not sure who hosts that. It is another game mode. It looked like fun watching some of them off of X television. It's a arena mode where if you cap the point, the enemy team respawns. No. If you capture the point, your team respawns, and then you get to fight the opponent back. It goes until one team's completely wiped, pretty much. And it's got some pretty crazy stuff that goes with it. It's amazing of a little mode, but it's not my cup of tea for competitive. So once you choose what type of competitive mode you want, you're going to want to learn their rule sets and how they play mechanically. In Highlander, the rule sets are a bit lenient. It's 1 of each class, no 2 of the same class out past the spawn gates at any time. So 2 people can't go engineer and set up really fast. No 2 people could be a sniper, no 2 spies at any time. It's 1 of every class. However, if you're in spawn, you can have 9 of all the same class as long as no one leaves spawn or gets a kill. So that's what makes up Highlander. In sixes, you have your 2 scouts, 2 soldiers, 1 demo, 1 medic, but you're also allowed to bring a sniper, a spy, pyro, heavy, whatever. Their rule sets are a bit more based on the weapons more than the classes. However, you'll rarely see a heavy run to mid or an engineer. You'll occasionally see a sniper based on the map because of the sight lines. It makes the sniper very, very viable. And then you also need to learn the type of maps they play on too. In Highlander, it's payload, capture point, king of the hill. Those are your main modes. There has been occasionally king of the hill, not king of the hill, capture the flag, with some custom maps. And then there has also been the occasional in the summer event specialty maps like tug of war, where there's one payload and you push it back and forth, sort of like 5CP. It was actually a fun mode. It hasn't been seen in a long time though. They mostly stick to the general formula. In sixes, you'll occasionally play Product, which is an upgraded version of Viaduct that's been made by a user. That is to prevent stalemates. There's a hole cut in the side of the barn so people can walk through instead of just a solid wall. And then your other game modes that you will play are 5CP. That's it. You'll occasionally, rarely get Gravel Pit, and occasionally get Capture the Flag, but they usually tend to stay away from those modes. In 4v4, it's just King of the Hill map. That's it, just King of the Hill. And in Arena Respawn, it's an arena map. So there's not much to work with the other two. Those are more of a specialty competitive mode, but there are people that play them. So after you choose your type of game mode that you want to play, now you get to select your class. What class suits you? If you feel like you're a good heavy, then Highlander may be the way to go for you, because a heavy's always needed. If you want to go medic, your options open up a bit to every type of game mode. And if you want to go, say, scout, then you've got about the same options as the medic. You need to choose what suits you. Out of that first 500 hours, what class did you enjoy the most? What do you think you did well with? And once you choose that, now you gotta start digging in and diving into the rules even further. So, the first step is you are going to need to learn how your class works within its role. In Highlander, a scout's more of a finisher flanker. In sixes, he's both a flanker and he also helps protect medic, and he's also a picker. He finishes up damage. And then in fours, roles change to everyone's a damage dealer except for the medic. And to respawn, everyone once again is a damage dealer. So after you pick your class and you know how they work, you're going to need to look at what weapons they're allowed to use in their respective game mode. So if you're playing Highlander, there are a few restrictions, but not a whole lot. In sixes, however, there are a lot more restrictions, specifically based around the scout and the soldier. Demo man usually uses stock weaponry, and medic usually runs crossbow, medigun, uber saw, and that's about it for medic. They will occasionally break out a crits creek. There's so many different rules and weapon restrictions per class, it would be impossible just to go over each one. So I suggest going to the UGC and TF2L leagues respectively, based if you're North American UGC or European TF2L for their rule sets based on their weapon restrictions. Both are different, so you have to pay attention to that. Then the next thing you need to do is learn how to fight in all situations. Your class isn't built for every situation. You need to adapt to it. If you're not able to take out that sentry as scout, you should be doing other things to be productive. You should be watching flanks. You should be guarding areas that you may suspect someone trying to go through. You should be touching the cart to reset it, even if it costs you your life. As long as you keep doing something productive. Even spy gets to be just pure communication if he's in a position where he's not able to get a stab or a headshot with the ambassador. Then from there, you need to know your limits. How well can you play this class currently? How well do you know this class currently? How well do you think you can handle a certain situation? If the answer is, I can't deal with it, I'm not very good at it, it's time to practice and to improve yourself. And I know you can do it, and a lot of people have been able to do it. I adapt to my situations as best as I can based on the class I'm playing. In a public game, I'll switch classes because I can, but in competitive matches, you're stuck doing with what you have. So you gotta learn to be productive, and you gotta know what your limits are. As a heavy, you're not invincible. In fact, you're a bullet magnet, and especially to a sniper. As a medic, you're the prime target. You need to know where to position yourself. As a soldier, you need to know when it's a good opportunity to bomb in or initiate a fight. All of these come down to what's your limit, and can you stay within it, and do you know when to push it? And pushing your limits is the next thing. Are you able to push yourself to the extremes to improve yourself? And not by going to yourself and saying, oh, I got outplayed. Oh, they were better than us. You need to go, okay, I made a mistake. What can I do to improve this time? Why did I take this fight? And sometimes it will come to you got outplayed. And those do happen some of the time, but not all of the time. If all of the time to you is I got outplayed, you're doing it wrong. And then you need to reflect on yourself at that point of, am I really suited for competitive at this moment? And if you figure that you're not, it may be time to take the sub position on your team and just step back and go improve yourself. If you feel you're going to learn from your previous mistake and improve, stick with it and keep going as the main lineup of your team. But never be afraid to admit to yourself, I'm doing wrong, I need to improve, I need to get better. If you do, you will become a better player, making yourself even better and being able to push your limits even further. So after you've learned how your class goes, all your rules, all your weapon bans, and how you can push yourself and how to know your limits, then you need to learn to practice. Now there are a few ways you can practice. The most obvious one is going to TF2 lobby and just joining in, whether it be a Sixes style or a Highlander style. I'm not sure if they offer 4s or Arena Respawn. I know they do offer Ulti-Do for Soldier Medic practice, but it's mostly Highlander and Sixes. So you go there, find your region, make sure it's a North American match or a European match, but you can join on the opposite. Just remember, there will be ping differences, and you have to be aware of that. If your ping spikes over 150, it's going to be very bad, and it's going to hurt not just you, but all your teammates too. So make sure you stay within the 10 to 120 ping limit. Those are your best options. There are rules I know set in place by UGC that limits ping. If your team average exceeds so much, then you switch servers. If it still exceeds so much, then you have to either deal with it or forfeit the match. It's one of those things that give a big advantage to some players that way. Another way is newbie mixes. Now I forget who hosts these and that, but I'm pretty sure you can find them online. Easy enough if you just Google it. Newbie mix-ups are where new players to competitive can come in and sit down to play a match with other people of their skill, and in their voice chat will be a coach. Now these coaches are usually high level to invite level players who play at high level, and they sit down and while you're playing, they're spectating your match, and they're telling you, your best options of should you push, should you hold, should you retreat, what should you do, and how to improve yourself while you're doing it. These guys know what they're doing, they're very friendly, and they're worth listening to. And I suggest going for it and listening to it. If you don't, it may hurt you in the long run, but they're worth doing. And then the last option is finding a team and scrimming with them. If you do manage to find a team, then you'll want a voice chat. I recommend Discord because it's free, but some teams have a Mumble or a TeamSpeak. And make sure you have a mic to go with it, because communication is key. If you don't have a mic, it can hurt you. However, some teams will settle for you just having headphones if your position calls for you not to be calling stuff out. So an engineer is usually not going to be saying stuff in chat unless it's very important, like spy at gun or that. But it is mostly for listening for an engineer or a pyro, just to pay attention. So you don't need a mic, but you do want a headset so you can listen to people. That's a very important key when finding a team. Once you find your team, then scrim with them. That's the best way to go. And from there, you can improve yourself. The last thing on a quick note is a null movement script. This is usually best for all classes and makes you even better at pubs. It'll be there in the description.